Welcome to Generally Irritable, a special Thursday morning episode for you guys. I am really excited to have on one of our friends that we've made at America Fest. Um, uh, our guest today. I want to call him Father Frank Pavone. I don't think I'm allowed to call him that anymore. He'll tell us when he comes into the stream. But he is the founder, I believe, of Priests for Life. And he's going to correct me when he comes on. But we met Frank at America Fest, and I just loved his story. I loved his story because this is a man who was willing to give up everything for what he believed. And you don't often find that these days. You'll find people who, say that they believe in something, say that they want something, say that something matters to them, but ultimately they're not actually willing to sacrifice. They're not even willing to take a day off to go do the thing that they say they care about. How often have we heard people complaining about politics, people complaining about the abortion industry, and yet they won't spend one single minute praying outside Planned Parenthood. They won't write a letter to their Congress people to ask them to do anything different. But Frank is not that guy. And when we get started in our conversation today, I'm going to have him share with you. I don't want to tell his story. I'm going to have him share with you briefly what happened. How did he get to the place where he was defrocked for his activism, where he was actually lost his position in the church as a priest, in order to, or as a result of his efforts to save and protect the unborn. Again, you guys, this is just somebody who he doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. And so when you meet people like this, you just feel it. You feel that energy, and you can tell how passionate he is and how much he cares. So you guys, we're going to be talking about Frank, his life, what he's working on. But most importantly in this conversation, what I want you to be listening for are the ways that you can help, the way that you can participate. It's sometimes easy after you've already made the decision, after, for people like Frank, for people like, and I'm not going to compare myself to Frank, you guys. He's definitely sacrificed way more than I have. But it's after you've made that sacrifice, after you've made that leap to fight for your beliefs, to fight for your integrity, to fight against a system that is corrupt. On the other end of that, it's easy to tell other people that they should and need to do the same. But it's scary. And I know that. I've definitely lost friends. I've lost business opportunities. I have definitely sacrificed comfort for my beliefs. And I want to encourage you to do the same thing. I know it's scary. I know it's scary to think that you might lose your job, or your kids might be mad at you, or your mom might not want to talk to you anymore. But I have to ask, what really matters to you? And if you're not willing to sacrifice, if you're not willing to lose something for it, do you actually care that much? Or are you just complaining? That's my question for you. And again, hey guys, you know that I'd never take it easy on anybody. I'm not taking it easy on you today either. Because at this point, with the way that our country is progressing, if people are too afraid to stand up for themselves and for their families, if people are too afraid to stand up for the most vulnerable among us, I'm not sure what chance we have to keep our republic. So without any further blah, blah, blahing from me, you guys, I want you to hear from Frank Pavone, pro-life advocate out of Florida now, visiting us from Florida. Good morning, Frank.
Hi, Ericka. It's great to be with you. Thank you for having me on today. And, as you mentioned, we met at AmFest. And while I was there, I did dozens of interviews. But I say very honestly, not just because I'm on your program right now, my favorite one was when you interviewed me, because I did just the passion that you have and the straightforward attitude. I mean, this is what's necessary to deal with the things we're dealing with in our culture today and in our nation. So I want to just start by thanking you for your work and for your broadcasts.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate that. That America Fest, you guys, for anybody who considers themselves a conservative, if you get a chance to go to a Turning Point USA event, you absolutely must. Whether it's AmFest, Young Women's Leadership Conference, whatever it is, you are surrounded by patriots, people who love this country, people who love their neighbors, people who are passionate and about things. It's like the Super Bowl of conservatism. Yeah.
It's a great conference. And yeah, I wanna echo that too. Come on in and just the information you get from the presentations is one thing, but it's the connections, the relationships, the new friendships. You come away with just a treasure that makes it all worth it.
Yes. Yeah. And you realize you're not alone.
Right.
For me, when I was coming up and really, starting to get involved in politics, I was living in Vermont, which is one of the least pro-life states
Right.
that there is. They passed, I don't know if you know this, Frank, but Vermont actually passed a law to remove personhood status from the unborn.
Yep.
And for those of you who are watching, if you don't understand what that means and what the consequences are, what happened was a woman who was pregnant with twins was struck by a drunk driver, lost both babies. So she miscarried, or I don't even know what you would call that. The drunk driver killed both of her unborn children and was only charged with the DWI, not even manslaughter, not nothing, because in Vermont, the unborn are not people.
It's a break from reality, isn't it, Ericka? It's a form of, not to insult individual people, but it is a form of mental illness when
Really
you say a baby's not a baby. And I think we discussed this when you had me on previously. Isn't that the same kind of insanity that then leads us to say a man is not a man or a woman is not a woman? If you say a baby's not a baby, well, you've already broken from reality. Then anything goes after that.
Well, and that my question that I've asked, which I don't get, is if it is not a human baby worthy of protections under our Constitution, just like a live, born baby,
right?
Then what is it?
Then what is it? Right.
It's not it's not a turtle, which if it was a turtle, they would be trying to protect it.
Yep.
There are laws to protect eagles' eggs, bird eggs, and turtles and things, but not the unborn humans.
There is a massive amount of even before we go into the moral, philosophical, religious, and even political realms of this topic, on the basic biological scientific level, there is so much ignorance about how well developed that baby is from the very first days of that baby's existence. We hear a lot today about the chemical abortion, and people think that, this is different from an abortion procedure where we've heard about the arms and the legs coming off and everything. And they think that they're just getting rid of a clump of cells. But when these chemical abortions occur and people are just taking these drugs, how many realize that at the average time at which they take these pills, the baby's heart has already beat over 2 million times. Right. It's like, wait a minute. What do you mean heart? The baby doesn't have a heart at that time. Yes,
it does.
And so it's like if we just started with the scientific, and this is the irony, of course, of our opponents who say follow the science. Well, they don't follow the science when it comes to the baby in the womb. They don't. But the science is a great starting point for people to realize what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm always like. You guys want us to trust the science. You say trust the science, but y'all don't trust the science. You're saying a baby is not a baby. and I will confess, and I've admitted this. This is not new information to my viewers. I, like so many American women, was deceived. And I was convinced that if I was, got pregnant out of wedlock and, don't bother asking me why I was having sex with a loser, but the baby daddy's bad, blah blah blah. Well, you just get an abortion. That's what you do. That's just what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can't think, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure somebody in the comments is going to let me know. Have you, in your memory, heard of a better, more successful propaganda campaign than Clump of Cells?
Right. It's amazing how easily we're deceived, and I mean, of course, philosophically, I mean, if you don't value human life, then we're all clumps of cells. I mean, what is it that we're looking at right now, right? I mean,
I'm a clump of cells.
It's all cells together, in a certain form. But that's the mindset of somebody who just has no reverence, no sense that there's a value here beyond the cells. There's a value to that life, and that's what we've lost in our society. We were talking before we started about certain web pages that people might want to look at and so forth. Let me give you one, and if during the course of the program you want to navigate to it, Children Before Birth, Children Before Birth. .org. Ericka, people are going to see on that page pictures of developing baby and video of the developing baby that they have never seen before. It will astonish them. And it goes back again to this point that folks just don't realize how well developed that baby is. And
I'm gonna share my screen. Anybody that's watching, if you get queasy from medical pictures or whatever, there's nothing super gross, but one of these pictures does have a little bit of blood on it. So I'm going to share it. This is your warning. Look away if you get freaked out by medical pictures. Okay, hold on. Let me share my screen. I love this because this is the lie, right? This baby that looks like a baby is young enough that they would say that this was okay to abort.
Right. Yeah. And if we go to that, you will see we have diagrams of a baby, like, for example, let's go to the 7 week. Okay. So that's what we were just talking about before.
Yeah.
This is the kind of baby that is destroyed by the chemical abortion drugs. And
I think it goes up to 12 weeks even, doesn't it?
Yes. Indeed.
That's a baby.
You look at that. That's a baby. I think you could even enlarge it if you click on it. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Look.
Wow.
I mean, and okay, so you got what there? You got
fingers,
the 10
toes. There. Yep, that's the 10 week. Look at fingers, toes, ears, nose, eyes, arms, legs.
Right.
That is a baby. Okay, that's not a zygote anymore or whatever. What is it? Is that what it is when it's first? When the egg and the sperm
that's at the very
fertilized?
beginning. That's at the very beginning, and then the baby is called an embryo, and then after that, after 8 weeks, is called a fetus. But these are just terms like adolescent or elderly. But if you go back,
go ahead.
If you go back, you'll see the one going even to 7 weeks. That very first one. I mean, this is where look. This baby is still technically called an embryo. Now, many people, when they hear the word embryo, again, what are they thinking? They're thinking clump of cells.
Mm-hmm.
What is any? I mean, you could have a 5-year-old look at that and they'll say, baby. So, no, I mean, and again, we're not even talking about the moral or philosophical or religious or legal or political. We're just talking, what is this? What are we destroying? Ericka, do you remember there were a number of social media posts over recent years from young women who pro-choice advocates who said, I'm going to film my abortion.
Oh my God, it's so,
you remember, right? And this is part of an effort to sort of normalize it, destigmatize.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to film my abortion. Okay. So I don't question if they're going to tell me that video is of them actually having an abortion. I don't know that for sure. But on the other hand, I'll take them at their word, right? But you know what my challenge was to them? I said to them, listen, you didn't film your abortion. And I'm not saying you're lying that you were having an abortion, but I said you didn't film your abortion because all you saw there was their face while they were having an abortion.
You didn't see the procedure.
I said, you want to film your abortion? Show me what came out of your body. Show me exactly what that procedure did. Show me that what came out, because what comes out is what we just saw:
Yeah.
a face, a head, arms, legs. I
Well,
mean, this.
and they tell you at the clinic, they will tell you if you do the chemical abortion, they tell you, you know, when it passes, if it's as if it's a bowel movement or a kidney stone,
Right,
when it
right.
passes, don't look at it. They
Ah,
tell you that. Don't
yep.
look, don't look in the toilet, don't do it, just flush it. That's literally what they tell you.
Hmm.
And then you've seen, and just like you said, I think it was maybe last year or the year before, a video went viral of a young woman saying she didn't just flush it, she looked, and she was horrified and mortified because it was a baby.
Baby, no question about it. There's no denying it. And well, that's why didn't Bill Maher recently say on his program, "Oh, yeah, it's murder. You know, you got to
But
admit
I'm
it's
okay
murder."
with it.
But I'm okay with that. You know, and that's the real crux of this moral evil, that people know
Yeah.
full well that this is murder, and yet they don't care.
I think for me, I will say this was, and again, I'm being really transparent here because I want these conversations to be honest and to be meaningful. So I'm sharing things that are definitely not like, definitely don't make me look good, y'all. But I remember when Lord Reddick and I first started dating.
Mhm.
We got into, and I was not a believer at this time. I believed in God, but I was basically an agnostic. And again, I've been propagandized too my entire life. And so we're having this conversation, and he said, and we were talking about abortion. And the gist of the conversation was, no, I know it's alive. I know it's a
Mhm.
life, and I
Mhm.
know that I killed it. And
Mhm.
that just is that just is what it is. Because I was raised with this belief that there's too many humans on this earth anyway. And, you know, I believed the lie that it's just a clump of cells and all this stuff. And it wasn't until I got saved and became a Christian that I really started to value human beings and
Yes.
life itself.
Yes.
And I think there's that disconnect. I'm not saying you can't value human life if you're not a believer, but it does feel like the people who care the most are believers.
That is a very important point, because like we were just saying, we begin with the science, and within the pro-life movement, we always emphasize that, hey, listen, we have to be able to make this argument even to non-believers, and people
Mm,
will say, well, it's not primarily a religious issue. But at the
right.
same time, most Americans are religious. I mean, this is still a religious country.
Mm,
Most Americans do believe in God and do pray and do believe in the Bible.
mm,
They may not live it perfectly, but neither do we. The point is that the faith is a real motivator for people. And especially when you talk about Christian faith, you're talking about a faith that says God loves humanity so much, he became one of us.
yes.
And so that increase, I mean, you can already say, yes, human life, that's a human life, number one. Yes, human life has to be protected. Otherwise, how do we have a functioning society? If it's
Right.
okay to kill that baby and you admit that it's murder, well, then here comes the question. What other types of murder are
This
okay?
is and that was the kind I love my husband. For anybody who doesn't know, like that was part of why I ended up becoming a Christian was
Yeah.
he asked me those hard questions. Well,
Yeah.
if that's the case, well then why can't you kill a baby after it's born? Why can't you
Mhm.
kill a toddler or a 15-year-old? Like
Yep.
if
Yep.
what does human life mean?
Right.
What is that actually? And I think for me, meditating on that question and like having to learn that even the people that I hate, even the people that hurt me, that God loves them, that wants them to be with him, that God made them, like even the worst people on earth are children of God.
Right.
And so then how do I then interact with people that I disagree with? How do I then protect the unborn? You know, it just changes everything.
Yes. Yes. Yes,
It
it does.
changes your whole perspective. So, how do you, when you're talking to folks who are now, obviously, as a believer, we can say, "Oh, all human life is valuable," and whatever. Um, but when you're talking to really staunch pro-choice advocates, and they're just like, No, abortion is a good no matter what. How do you talk to them? What are the kinds of things that you say to help persuade people that they're wrong?
You know, let me use the example of a friend of mine who is actually known as the father of the pro-choice movement,
Oh,
Bill Baird from Massachusetts. If you look up the Supreme Court cases dealing with contraception and abortion, his name appears on no less than 3 Supreme Court cases. Bill is still alive. He's 90 years old now. But he and I developed a friendship going back maybe 25 years ago. And we know, we were leaders on opposite sides of this issue, and yet we started talking. And the way, one experience that answers your question, he used to come to the National Right to Life Convention. He would come to protest, but also to participate. And I was offering the closing mass for the Catholics who were attending that convention. I would do that each year. And I invited Bill to come to the mass. So he came. He was standing in the back of the room. This was obviously not his comfort zone in any way, but he came. And afterwards, well, at the end of the mass, I pointed out everybody who was there at the convention knew who he was. And I said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to point out Bill Baird has been with us during this mass. He's there in the back of the room. And then I addressed him directly. There was like 500 people in the room. And I said, Bill, I want you to know, and I speak for each and every one of us, we respect your life as much as we respect the life of any unborn child. And the room erupted in applause.
wow.
I saw Bill as I left the room and encountered him. His face was glowing in a way I'd never seen that kind of an expression on his face of serenity and joy. And you know what his words were to me? He said, Frank, I never in my life experienced so much love.
Wow.
That's how we deal with these folks who, if they have lost respect for what they acknowledge is a human life, well, then we've got to begin to restore their respect for human life by showing our respect for their life. That's how it begins. Now, everyone is going to know how to do that in their own way. It depends on the context of the relationship, but anything you can do to show them you care about them. And that's where, in terms of what you say, I would say you ask them questions and let them tell you the why behind their position. They may make it very clear to you, listen, first of all, I'm not a believer. Secondly, I'm all in for abortion. And you say, okay, I hear you. Could you explain to me a little bit more of why you think that way? And the more you let them talk, see, it's easy for somebody to say, I don't want to listen to you.
Yeah.
But it's very hard for somebody to say, I don't want you to listen to me. So when we show them we're listening to them, we are conveying, by that very action, we are conveying respect for them. They know we disagree. They know that already. But that's not going to be a reason to walk away. That's going to be a reason to listen. And when we show them we're willing to listen to them, see, a lot of times pro-life people, because we know we have the arguments, we know we have the evidence.
Yep.
The patient is just to start talking, and give it. Let's give them the information. Maybe we'll convert them. But if they don't want to listen, that's not
logic. When has logic and reason ever worked to start an argument or conversation? It's never happened.
You want to connect with the person.
Exactly. That's even in marriage counseling. They tell you have to acknowledge the person's feelings and let them know that you care first. And I don't mean to sound like dismissive about it, but it's true. Like, if I'm upset about something and my husband comes in and is like, well, logic and reason, and you shouldn't be upset, the first thing I do is get more mad.
That's right. And Ericka, what the other the dimension of this too that we show in the pro-life movement. Every one of us who is a pro-life advocate, I've never met one that I cannot say this about. We care just as much about that mom who's carrying that baby as we do about the baby. And, psychiatrists say, believe behavior. You don't just believe someone's words. You look at their actions. We see in the pro-life movement, we have about 4 times as many pregnancy centers in America helping moms every day choose life, helping console the fears of the mom and the dad and the despair that drives them to an abortion clinic. It's not freedom of choice. It's a feeling of having no freedom and no choice. And we minister to these people. We give them real choices. And this is what can also move and influence and help folks that disagree with us get a better idea of who we are when they see how much we care for these moms, these dads. We're not against women. We're not against women's rights. We don't go around pointing fingers of condemnation. We extend hands of help, of mercy. In fact, in a few days, I mean, we're having this interview on a Thursday. On Tuesday, I'll be at, for several days, at a conference I go to each year of the pregnancy centers nationwide. There'll be thousands of people there. And we encourage and train and help them every day to minister to these moms, dads, and families and save these lives with compassion, with care, not with judgment, not with condemnation.
That's right. Well, and I love it. I'm going to ask you a really hard question here, Frank. You ready? This has been softballs the whole time. Ready? You ready for a tough one?
Yes.
We've got a comment from one of our viewers that speaks to one of the big arguments that we really struggle with, that people really struggle with. I hope I've posted her comments on our show before, so I hope she's not mad. I'm sharing something very personal. But actually I'm not going to show it just in case, but I will read it. This viewer of ours, has said that her mom was raped at 14. And that her parents made her give birth and then marry the man who raped her and then beat her continuously. And she was forced to have 3 more children with this person. Now, I'm going to assume that nobody's like, yeah, just marry your abuser. Okay. No, I don't think anybody would say, oh, if you've been raped and beaten, that you should marry the person.
Right.
But that is the question in the case of rape. And when pregnancy comes, that is a really hard question, because I know to me, I say a life is a life, and you don't counteract one bad act with another. Like it's still a baby, regardless of how it was conceived. Yes. Right. But at the same time, I cannot imagine having been assaulted like that and then having to carry that child to term.
Right.
I mean, how do we talk to people about that? How do we minister to women in that circumstance? What does that even look like?
Right. Well, first of all, obviously conveying our profound concern, and to say, we are so sorry that this happens to anybody.
And obviously, like, whatever her parents making her marry somebody like that, like, that's not okay. I don't care what the circumstances are.
That's right. That's a different question. What you're going to do about that if there's a baby that's been conceived? That's one question. What you do in relation to that abuser is a different question. Yeah. But focusing in on the baby, first of all, we ask. Look, anybody who asks me, or they might say to me, "Oh, abortion should be allowed in cases of rape." And I say, look, we agree on something very fundamental, which is the very source of your question. Namely, we're concerned about that woman, about that rape victim. We are concerned about her. We care about her. We want what's best for her. We do not minimize her pain. We can't even, if we haven't been through that experience, we can't even begin to know how deeply painful that is. Yeah. So we start with that. But if we agree that we care about that woman, then the question becomes, will an abortion help her, or will it hurt her further? That really is the crux of the matter, because we don't have to debate how bad rape is. We don't have to debate, should we care about this woman? Those are not matters of debate. What the question becomes is, okay, we both want to do what's best for her. Is an abortion the best course of action? What's it going to do to her? Of course, we could talk. We know what it's going to do to the baby. That's the very definition of abortion. But I wouldn't even start there. I would start with her. What is it going to do to her? Now, do we know from experience? There have been some studies, and we know from ministering personally to people in these situations, we do have some insight into this. And in so many instances, the person who has experienced sexual assault and then conceived a child, first of all, the idea of abortion is usually presented by someone else. It's usually not primarily coming from her. But secondly, if she goes through with the abortion, and we can talk about it a little bit later, the Silent No More campaign. We have a whole worldwide campaign of those who've had abortions and speak out about it, including in situations of rape. And here's what they tell us. The abortion hurt them just as much as the rape did. And sometimes they're in counseling more afterwards, because of the abortion. Why? We have to understand, a sexual assault, somebody has done something violent and evil to me. An abortion, I have done something now violent to somebody else.
Yeah.
That is a trauma also. And this is the missing piece of the puzzle. Abortion is a trauma, causes a trauma. If it didn't, we wouldn't have hundreds of thousands of people every day seeking counseling because of their abortion. This is Ericka, there's a blind spot here. I mean, people don't even go there in their minds. Abortion is like a magic wand. It's a big eraser. Everything after the abortion, we don't have to think about it anymore. Now, people say, well, won't the baby remind me of the rapist? And my question is, you think that if she aborts that baby, she's going to forget about the baby?
Or she's going to forget about the rapist.
Right.
You don't, as a survivor of sexual assault, I can tell you that I still think about it sometimes. Like, it still comes up. But I will say the pain from that experience is significantly less than the regret I feel for not having children. I gave up my opportunity to be a mother, and then once, a little later, I found the man of my dreams, and now I can't have his children, and I can't be a mother. And so the pain and the regret that I feel, that I suffer from that, is far worse than the pain of remembering the assault. And that may not be the case for everyone, but oh my God, excuse me. It is something that I did Save One class. You've probably heard of that.
Oh, so I know. Yeah, sure.
So I did. It's a class that you can do. A lot of churches have it, where you can, work toward emotional healing. But I still had to wrestle with God to accept his forgiveness. I did not want to accept his forgiveness for what I had done, because I felt like I deserved to be punished.
Exactly. Substance abuse, suicidal thoughts. We minister every day to people who have had abortions. And this is the constant pattern. It is such a horrific thing. It has such a terrible impact. One begins to lose the sense of, who am I that I could have done something like that? And who is God? And how can I ever make a decision again? How can I ever have a relationship again? The degree to which an abortion devastates somebody is so underestimated. I'm sorry. I'm getting so fired up. I am so far. It's so funny to go. I think about, Benjamin and I were talking about this recently. I went from, being a Planned Parenthood supporter, donating money, being on the floats and the whole bit, to being like, no, this is terrible. Like, stop it. Right.
And it really is, because no matter how well you've been deceived, no matter how much you've been propagandized to, you know the truth. People know, in your heart that you have taken another human life.
Yes, right.
And that never leaves you.
No, it doesn't.
And so I just think, hold on. I want to share my screen. I want to share this. This is the page, the Silent No More.
Silent No More, yes. And on Silent No More, Ericka, they can read the testimonies of hundreds of people that have had abortions and are speaking out now about it. You were asking me before, how do we talk to
Yeah.
those who disagree with us? This is another big part of the answer. Let
Yeah.
them listen to the voices of those who have actually done this thing that they think is just a choice or that they think should be okay, should be legal.
Yeah.
Fine, okay. Well, let's talk about those who have. Let's talk to those who have done it and let them tell us what it was like.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely it's eye-opening, to say the least, to read and listen to and watch the videos of these testimonies, because
Yeah.
they're all there on that website, silentnomore.com.
Yeah. I think it's so important. I will okay, so I got to meet Abby Johnson, who was a big part of why I ended up becoming pro-life. I had, again, remember, I was heavily brainwashed, and I hate to even admit it, but even after I got saved, I was still trying to like be pro-choice. I don't know why, but like that was just what you did. And I remember the ladies at church were so gracious. They were just like, "Oh, you'll figure it out." And I think that if they had come at me and been awful and like, "You're a baby killer," and like I never would have come. Well, I mean, maybe that's too much. I don't know. I just want to. I'm sorry. I'm going all over the place. My brain is going too fast, you guys. Okay. Going back a little bit to what you said, if people had been mean to me, I don't know if I would have come around. But I was still trying to be pro-choice. And then the movie Unplanned came out.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I am going to watch this, and I am going to be I'm going to be open-minded, and I'm not going to be judgmental. I'm going to see what this is about.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and it was awful. I mean, good. It's a good movie. It's actually a really good movie. But it was heartbreaking. And then, of course, after I watched it, I got online and I started Googling, what is an abortion? What happens? What is a clump of cells? Show me what a baby looks like at certain weeks and things like that. And then I found this doctor. I found a bunch of videos of this former abortion doctor talking about the procedure and what it's like. And I was so horrified and disgusted.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I cried for like 3 days. Because it was like the veil had been lifted. I saw the truth, and I was so upset and disappointed. I wonder how we can get more cultural content, like movies like Unplanned, that can speak to people without it having to be crazy. You know what I mean? Like, how do we get people to go down those rabbit holes with us?
Yeah, and the movement is actually developing more and more of this kind of thing. We've got this movie Unplanned, and there's another one that'll be coming out in a matter of months called Unthinkable. Abby and I are good friends, and we work together, of course, now in this movement. And I helped her with this next film, Unthinkable. And again, what we do is, as in answer to your question, we propose. We say, look, here's a story. Telling stories. I mean, Jesus does it in the New Testament, right? It's an age-old, time-tested way of bringing people around to the truth. Just tell a story. It's non-threatening. It invites the person either to do exactly what you did. I'm going to watch this. I'm not making any commitment. But I'm going to go into it with an open mind. And people can do it in the privacy of their own home, in their own space, and nobody's got to see what they're doing or thinking. I mean, I think that's the way we go, and we propose and we offer these stories, these insights, without judgment and without condemnation, and with respect. It works all the time, because the truth has a power all its own, and that's where, when we present it with compassion, it does resonate with people, and it leads them along.
Yeah, and here's a little.
Yeah, there we go. Coming this summer. Yep.
Yeah. I was so over the moon, Frank. I got to interview Abby Johnson briefly at the Young Women's Leadership Conference in 2022, I think. And she posted our interview on her page.
Oh, isn't that beautiful?
I was
Isn't
like,
that yeah, there's a funny story. Abby, it didn't get into the movie unplanned, but when Abby was still working in the clinic,
yeah,
I was there one day praying outside, as pro-life people often do. And
okay.
she noticed that I was out there because she knew who I was, because she was watching during the days she was working in the abortion clinic. She used to watch my TV programs called Defending Life. And she said, I don't agree with this guy, and I don't like him too much, but I'm interested to hear what he has to say. And so she sees me out the window. She tells her colleagues, could you zoom in the camera on that priest out there? I think I know who that is. And they zoomed in the camera. Said, that's Father Frank Pavone. And then she turns to her colleagues and she says, do you think it would be okay if I went out there and said hello to him? They said, no, are you crazy? You can't do that. But it turns out that, of course, we became best of friends once she left the abortion industry. But people like her, it's happening all the time. Her story got to be known. But we have ministered to hundreds of people who will never be known, that have made that same journey. I mean, literally working in the abortion industry, and who have come out and been accepted by and healed by God's grace.
Oh, I love it. Speaking of God's grace, I want to take a quick second to just share with you guys. This is not a sponsor, but it is a conference that's coming up here in Round Rock, Texas. So if you're in the Central Texas area, if you're in Texas, come to Round Rock. Join us on May 3rd and 4th. It is the Mosaic Women's Conference. So this is the launch of a new women's ministry. The conference is going to be awesome. I happen to be helping put some of the production tech together, so I'm a little bit biased. But this ministry was started by Lissa Christina. You can look her up on Instagram, Lissa Christina, Lyssa. Check out more of her stuff. Check out more of her story. It's going to be great. The speakers are going to be awesome. The worship team is going to be amazing. I hope I know who it is. If it's who I think it is, it's you guys are going to be blown away. There's going to be spoken word. There's going to be a live dance performance. It's going to be super fun. And it's not going to be like some women's conferences where you just go and complain about your husband and you complain about stuff. This is actually come, be encouraged, be lifted up and filled up by other women, encouraging other women. So May 3rd and 4th, check it out. Go to the website, check out the QR code, register today. There's still some seats left. So do not wait. Don't wait. Okay. So, Frank, sir, before we go today, before we wrap up for the day, what would you like to share with, and you know what, actually, just really quick, you guys, I'm going to share, this is Bill Baird.
There he is.
This is the guy who felt so much love from a group of Christian pro-lifers.
Hey, this is impressive, Ericka, because I didn't tell you I was going to talk about Bill Baird. Here you are. I got a picture of him. Good job.
Thank you. Well, it makes it more interesting, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It's like we just talk about stuff and it's like, wait, who was that? What was that again? So I want to make sure we leave folks today with some hope and some action items.
Yes.
So you've got this amazing website that we've been looking at today. It's Priests for Life, or what was the other,
End abortion. Endabortion.us.
Endabortion.us. So there is tons of links on here, donation, like what is the best way for people to get involved? How can they follow you? How can they help support you?
Yes. Well, thank you, Ericka. First of all, of course, people can connect with me on social media at the handle that they see right there on the screen at FR Frank Pavone on all the major platforms. And that's one thing, because they'll see what we're doing. They'll see our content. They'll see our activities. But at endabortion.us, you will see that we're a multifaceted ministry, and you can get involved on whatever level corresponds to your interests. For example, we've been talking very much about the educational part. So those pictures you saw of the baby, videos and whatnot, you want people to understand what an abortion is. We have got everything you need for that educationally. The churches, this is another way people can be involved. We've got material for pastors. So if you can be a bridge between your church and our resources, you're going to help your pastor and other pastoral ministers speak the pro-life message with compassion, with clarity, prayer. We got prayer resources. We've got resources for preaching. I've written some books about that. Everything for the churches. In fact, there's a special, and again, all of this is at endabortion.us, but we got all these different domains, and prolife.church is one of them. Prolife.church. People ask, what can my church do? Well, we've got the answers for you there. Then, of course, Ericka, you and I met in the context of the political activism that we are both involved in. And we've got a prolifevote.com website. Friends, we do election training. We have got to win these elections in 2024. This is crucial, not just for the pro-life issue, but for the very survival of America. And prolifevote.com, we do regular trainings. We've got all kinds of materials there to help you educate and influence and activate voters. So crucial. And you are welcome to check out all the materials there.
I love it.
And then the healing after abortion, which, Ericka, we talked about. We oversee the world's largest ministry for healing after abortion. And if people want to know, like the testimonies of Silent No More, or the resources for finding healing, or the things they can say, we've got it all there too. And people can receive regular emails from us, regular mailings. You know, we got all the usual things.
I see join the email list.
Right.
There's a ballot, you know, and this is why I love what you're doing so much, Frank, because again, it's easy for us to just complain about how it is. You have put these amazing websites, these amazing resources together. So no matter where you are in your walk with the Lord or in your pro-life journey, or you can find something to do. You don't have to be Frank Pavone out there, you know, riling people up and you know, out speaking. You can be just writing letters. You can be reposting things. You can be praying at your local clinics. Like, there's so many things you can do. There's no reason to feel helpless, or hopeless, you know. And I think I've heard, and tell me if this is, if you've heard this and if you think this is accurate. I have heard that this next generation is the most pro-life generation that, you know, in years or whatever. Are you seeing that from young people? Is there hope for the future? What can you share with people?
There are two things that contribute to that being true. First of all, they have the understanding of how impactful, in a negative way, abortion is, because they see it in the faces of sometimes their parents or their friends that have experienced abortion. And they recognize, wait a minute, the rhetoric is one thing. But if the rhetoric were true, that this is such a great thing, I wouldn't be seeing the tears that I see on the faces, or the honest admissions from my friends about how their life was torn apart by their abortion. So our younger people are experiencing what happens after a whole generation of legal abortion. That's one thing. The other thing, very profound, they realize that they are survivors. Because you know, I was born in 1959. So my life when I was in the womb was protected. But anyone born since 1973, the Roe v. Wade decision, they can honestly say, and you know, you have to think, you know, what goes through the mind of someone when they first realize that their life wasn't protected when they were in the womb, that they could have been, not that their mom would have done so, but that they could have been aborted and the law did not recognize the value of their life. That's very impactful too. So when a lot of our young people who are getting more and more involved in the pro-life movement do so, they're speaking up for the unborn because in a very real way, they're speaking up for themselves. And they're saying, I had rights then that weren't recognized, so that's why I'm going to speak up now for the babies in the womb. So for these two dynamics are two of the main reasons why we see young people, becoming more pro-life and getting involved in this movement.
And that's, you know, the way that you were talking about that, I wanted to bring up this ministry that I saw on your website, Civil Rights for the Unborn. You know, one of the cool things on your website's your family of ministries, and it's a link to all the ministries that you're working with. And this was my big question when I was running for Congress in 2022 in the most pro-choice state in the country. Okay, where Planned Parenthood, at least in I think it was the 2020 election, and previous to that, was the largest donor to political campaigns in the state of Vermont. Okay, so that should tell you something about where their priorities are. So when I was asked, to defend my position or whatever, or this is how it went. I got asked at a debate, when does life begin? And I said, well, at conception. And I said, if we went to Mars and a single-celled organism was found, an amoeba was found on Mars, the headline would read, "Life found on Mars."
That's right.
So the question that you're actually asking me is, when does a human life deserve the same protections under our Constitution as the born do? So that is really what we're saying. And what the pro-choice argument is saying is that life before it comes out of the womb is not valuable and does not deserve the same rights and protections as a born person. And I just
which isn't an argument. It's just an assertion.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is your basis for that?
Right.
Like you can't, there's no basis for that belief. In my opinion, it's certainly not science-based. Let's just say
there's certainly no more basis for that position and for someone to come along and say your life doesn't have value.
Correct.
Right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
And so this civil rights for the unborn, I think, is also another way to engage people who are not believers necessarily, because you don't have to be a Christian to know that a person is a person and deserves to be protected.
Well, people will see on that website that you just showed, civilrightsfortheunborn.org, that Dr. Alveda King, niece of Martin Luther King Jr., she's been a friend of mine since 1999, and she has been a full-time member of our ministry for 16 years.
Oh, wow.
Alveda says the civil rights movement of today is the pro-life movement. And, her mom just passed away. Her mom, Naomi, again, I was close to her for the last 20 years or so. And Naomi actually spoke out for the unborn too. And she said, look, the dream of my brother-in-law, Martin Luther King Jr., is not going to be fulfilled until and unless the unborn are protected, because you can't be nonviolent and tolerate some violence. You can't talk about equality and tolerate inequality. And we are tolerating violence and inequality for the babies in the womb. I mean, this is the family of Martin Luther King Jr., there are other members of his family, of course, who are pro-choice. But the fact of the matter is, you don't have a basis for saying equality, nonviolence, civil rights, and exclude a whole segment of humanity. That's exactly the error that Martin Luther King Jr. spoke out about and died for.
Amen. Amen. And I think that is a perfect place to put a plug, to put a pin in our conversation today. I have been joined by Mr. Frank Pavone. Thank you so much for all of the work that you do in the pro-life movement. You guys, we shared some of his links to his stuff in the description, but we put a bunch more in the chat. Go check out these resources. Go check out his Instagram page, his YouTube, all of it. His @ is right there in his name. Go be awesome, you guys. Have a great day. And we will close with a commercial for our book, you guys. If you want to help support the mission, if you want to help support what we do here, you can go to Amazon.com and buy Reasons to Trust the Government for $9.99. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Bye, Frank.
Bye-bye.
This book will give you wings!
What kind of wings?
Not like Icarus wings, like eagle's wings!
What about dragons?
You'll have dragon's blood! You'll be able to breathe fire!
Fire like the Ultra Eagle Dragon!
This book will make you smarter!
Yes!
I'm not just talking honor roll smart, I'm talking Nikola Tesla smart! You'll be so good looking, Brad Pitt will be jealous!
Do you want to make Money?
How much money?
Elon Musk money.
That's a lot of money!
People will think you're Elon Musk, but you're not Elon Musk, but they'll think you're
Elon Musk, because you pay taxes like Elon Musk!
And you have to argue with Elizabeth Warren because she thinks you're Elon Musk. Do you want freedom?
How much freedom?
All the freedom. One to America. How much freedom do you want?
America!
Double America!